Game notes now, game talk as well. Join us, newly minted All-Pro linebacker Bart Scott. And Bart, thanks for joining us. Good to see you with us.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for the invite.
If there's anybody that understands what it's like to be on the other side of Peyton Manning, you've stared him down in the eyes. Give us a sense of what that's like.
He's the best in the game, and with 2 weeks to prepare, it's going to be pretty scary. He studies film so well, and he knows what you're going to do, and he works his counts very well. It's going to be a tough task, but it's going to be a great football game.
Now, Joe Sixpack is out there listening to this right now, and they want to get a sense of how you're going to protect this quarterback. And so looking at it from a defensive standpoint, what were some of the hurdles you had to overcome in route to getting to Peyton Manning?
Well, they do very unique protection with jet. We call it jet Y, and simply that means that the line is going to slide opposite of the back. And what that does is that gives Peyton a window to throw to. And he's a tall quarterback, so he doesn't have any trouble seeing over the offensive line. And in the back can check out with that. It's easy for him to check out because of the slide protection.
Well, Bart, you're given a perspective of what it's like from that standpoint, and I want to ask both of you guys, beginning with you, Charlie, with respect to even though you have a scheme that's going to allow you to get to the quarterback in theory, Peyton Manning still is an excellent quarterback. What makes him so special and difficult to reach?
I think that his just ability to read the defense is because he's on to his second to third read faster than anybody in the game. And I get that from people that you talk to about defending him. So he sees it so fast that he knows where his outlet is. The other thing is he spreads the ball around. Right now in the playoffs, Marvin Harrison isn't catching a lot of footballs. Well, why? You take away Marvin Harrison. That's the number one thing you do when you play the Colts. Why? He can get to the end zone faster than anybody else. So you start there. Well, you know what? Now Clark has a big game. You've got Reggie Wayne has a big game. The running backs have a big game. So it's Peyton's ability to, A, read the defense and spread the ball around.
How about you, Pat? What do you think is special about number 18?
Well, I think what's special about 18 and what the challenge for Ron Rivera, and I talked to Bart Scott before we came on the air, they threw the kitchen sink at Peyton in looks, pressures, schemes, and the Bears aren't that kind of team. Can the Bears, in your mind, play one or two defenses and get away with it?
I think they're going to put the pressure on their best defensive players. And Brian Urlacher, if I had to save the game with any defensive player in the league, I'll put it on Brian Urlacher's back. He's going to have a huge game because he's going to be right there in the zone with Dallas Clark when they read that cover 2 defense. Dallas Clark right up the seam, and Urlacher's going to have to make a play to deter Peyton from doing that and make him have to go to Reggie Wayne or Marvin Harrison.
We're talking about Peyton, but, let's talk a little bit about the Colts' rush defense, guys. It really has been a tale of 2 different seasons. And again, coming from the defensive side of the ball, tell us what the Colts have done in the regular season and, of course, flipped the coin and have become a stellar defensive unit in the postseason.
I mean, they're gap defense, and they're definitely walking Bob Sanders down into the box. And he's just playing the cutback in the backside for the most part. And he's getting down there fast. I think it's really going to be huge for someone to assign somebody because he's the heart and the soul of that defense right now. They're riding off his emotion and him coming back. They're going to have to get a Musa Muhammad. They're going to have to get a Barry, somebody that's big and physical to take him out the game and make one of those corners have to come up and make tackles.
And as we go inside the numbers and take a look at what the Colts have done defensively, it is quite impressive, guys. Their rush defense, 173 yards during the regular go. That's 159 passing yards, 332 total yards, 22.5 points. In the postseason, they have been on fire. The playoff defense, contrasting it, 73.3 yards rushing, 153.3, a total of 229. So they've nearly cut in half the run productivity the opposition has been able to come up with against them.
Yeah, and I talked to a couple players today that have played against him, and they say it's the speed. You look at them, and physically, we saw them at the PR day at the stadium, Charlie and I. They're not impressive physically looking, but as one of the players said to me, you can't block what you can't see, and you can't block what you can't get to, and they're just going to try to get by people.
Very well. When you have 8 guys in the box, it allows you to take your shot. You don't have to worry about cut back or wind back because somebody else is assigned to that. So now these guys can take their shots, be aggressive, knowing that, the only thing they have to do is make sure if they take their shot, they take it outside to force it back to their help. And you get more guys than the offense can block, and it's a numbers game.
Now I want to get into the running game, guys. When you look at this quad of backs on both ball clubs, Cedric Benson, Jones, of course, Adai, and Thomas, outstanding running backs to be sure. But what makes them as a group special and difficult to stop from an inside linebacker standpoint?
Well, from playing them not this year but last year, you got 2 different backs, but they're both powerful physical backs. Jones is more of a back that's capable of keeping it in between the tackles, but he's so well in cutting back and stopping his feet and reversing field. It gives you a different look. And Benson's so powerful and strong, so you have a tale of two tapes. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they're going to stop him. But if those guys can get receivers on the linebackers and the safety, it's going to be a tough day.
Speaking of the Colts tandem, you look at Joseph Adai. He's more of a versatile guy who can do a little bit of everything. And the changeup pitch is a little bit more of a straight line runner who can sprint it. Pat, you want to talk a little bit about that?
I want to talk about Joseph Adai. I think last year when they assessed paying Edgerrin James and decided not to, one of the pieces of that pie was the explosive runs. Edgerrin did not have a lot of runs for the number of carries he had of over 10 yards or over 20 yards. They went and got Joseph Adai, and this guy's, if he gets to the second level, he is dangerous.
Yeah, fresh legs, young back, playing with a lot of enthusiasm, and he's playing well. He's making all the right reads, and he's really giving what the defense gives you. He's making his reads off the three technique and cutting back, and he's playing very well for him. And then you have Dominique Rose coming in, and he's a kind of a switch up, straight down the line, more of a screen back and gadget guy.
As we wind it down, guys, I want to get all of your take on what seems to be emerging subplot here. If you've noticed, the cloud cover has increased each day. If it winds up being a rainy afternoon, who is the advantage at that point? Is it Indianapolis, who's going to try to do both running and passing the ball, or is it the team that's going to exclusively, more so, rely on the run game, Chicago? Who has the advantage? Charlie, we'll talk with you.
Well, I think you just have to see how bad the rain is and how bad the wind is. Because if it's just rain, a passing team has an advantage because the receivers know where they're going. A lot of times, and Pat pointed out, Indianapolis scores quick. Get up early quick before the elements take over the field. The field will slow the speed of Indy down on their pass rush, but it's the wind, to me, that's a bigger factor in the passing game.
Pat?
I like the rain and the wind for one thing. If I'm on the Colts, I now decide to punt to Devin Hester. If it's a sunny day, I'm punting the ball out of bounds. But if you're going to give me a little precipitation and a little wind, I'm going to see if he can field the ball.
Fair enough, Bart.
Well, I'm going with Chicago because they have more of the pure deep threat. And Barry, who's just a fast guy, physical, that can, it's going to be tough for corners to get a jam on him. Whereas Marvin and Wayne are more route runners, more polished receivers. And I think that the running backs and they have a great possession receiver and Musa Muhammad, I think it'll be an easier day and a better adjustment for Chicago if it's a rainy day.
Fair enough, gentlemen. Bart, thanks for joining us. Now